Hello and welcome back to the shed. I've got some medical glue and a strip of tape holding a flap of skin back on my forehead. It's story time. Now we're hands-free today. Doing this has meant that my normal camera mount is no longer on the wall. So where is my normal camera mount then? There are some holes in the wall here. There are some holes in the wall down there.
This is where the lovely rainbow toolboard lives, along with a load of cycling gear, a cupboard, and
The stand I usually clamp my camera into. Normally there's a bike work stand bolted to those, and yesterday, while I was filming a different video about bike stands, the whole thing came crashing down.
I'm going to lift the bike in here and then we're going to get ready to install. Get it on there and clamp it up.
Now I am a little concerned about this because
It probably came crashing down because I exceeded the designed weight limit for it. I put quite a heavy bike on it. I'm not entirely sure what the weight limit is, but I assumed it would take a bike. The bike in question is pretty beefy. It is my Extracycle Free Radical, which is a normal bike, but with a large set of panniers and platform bolted to the back of it. Now this is a separate frame that bolts to the back of the bike. The normal bike wheel should go here. So you've got all this extra stuff. It's probably not very light. I would say the whole bike is a 40, maybe 45, 50-pound bike. It also has mounted to it a heavy metal bar to hold a child seat, and it's running mountain bike wheels. These are proper mountain bike wheels with Hope hubs and other things. They're not particularly light. The back brake rotor, which is under this bag, is a 203, I think, so that's not light either. And it has a lot more cabling and 2 chains and lots of other things that make it heavier. So what went wrong here? Well, this is my bike work stand. This is the wall mount part of it. This clamp normally holds my phone camera when I'm filming things. It sort of sits against the wall like that. I put the phone camera in it and film myself over the other side of the garage at the workbench, hammering this, that and the other. When it's not being used in its freestanding configuration, this grey metal bar is held to the wall by these black plastic mounts, and it's bolted on by a couple of sort of 30 or 40 mil screws inside of plugs. That allows me to use the bike work stand in the garage rather than on its big tripod that it normally lives on when I'm fixing bikes that I take outside so I can hose them down and all the rest of it. Very convenient, but mostly just used for a camera mount. I don't normally use it to put bikes on, although I do quite regularly put my mountain bikes on it, outside on its tripod, and occasionally inside on this wall stand. Now, I hadn't thought that it would give me any grief. The plugs here are pretty long. The holes in the wall are pretty beefy. The screws inside the plugs, they're not the longest ever, but they are reasonably long. And this was just the standard fitting kit that came with it. So I didn't really think when I installed this, and that was a couple of years ago, oh no, that's really weak, it's going to come off the wall. I've hung loads of bikes on it and it's fine. It's always been sat there and it's never given me the impression that it's going to drop on my head anytime soon. Boy, was I wrong. So why then have I had to have a flap of skin glued back to my forehead? Sometimes things fall down, sometimes you drop bikes. It can't be that difficult, can it? Well, there are 2 reasons really. Number one, the bike stand fell off the wall. That's not amazing. That could have fallen on my foot and hurt my foot, but ideally not usually life-threatening. When you're fitting bike stands though, you're not next to the bike. You're crouching underneath the bike, fiddling with bolts and things. So here I was, underneath the bike, looking up, fiddling with bolts and things, moving this, that and the other around to try and get things lined up, and kaboom. And it came down, just all in one go, no warning, bang. Knocked me over to the ground. I sort of got up, said ow, and then somebody came in and said, are you okay? And I said, yes, I've had a bike land on my head. And then they said, there's quite a lot of blood. Looked at my hand, yes there was. And you'll know if you nick your skin on your head, lots and lots and lots and lots of blood comes out. Now, when I had a look at this in the mirror, it was pretty sort of jagged and quite deep, much deeper than some other cuts that I've had recently, which have been pretty gross. So I thought, you know, I'm not going to be able to stop this at home. I'm going to have to nip down to the hospital and have them have a look at it. And of course, they washed it out, glued the flap of skin back on, and put this fancy little plaster on there. So that was all fine. However, the other reason that I ended up with this injury and not something else is because actually when the bike came down and hit me on the head, it was the end of a bolt that hit me first. And those are quite jagged, and obviously that was what dug into my skin and sort of cut a flap out of my forehead. That was a bit of a pain, to be honest. When I went back and looked at the bike, there was a little bit of my forehead stuck to the bit of the bolt. So that was very unfortunate. So what am I going to do about this? Well, you know, I've done what I needed to do. The hospital's just up the road. I walked down there and within an hour had my head glued back together. But I probably need to go and buy some really big wall anchors for this thing and get that mounted up really securely, because I'm going to continue hanging big heavy bikes off of it from time to time, and I don't want it to fall and drop on my head again. Why it's not up to scratch with its standard fittings, I don't know. I think I'm probably going over the weight limit, like I said. So I'm going to go and buy some wall anchors and get that mounted back up again, and no more holes in my head. One thing I didn't appreciate about this stand is that the top pole slides in and out, so you can remove it and use it with the tripod part of the stand. That means that this top mount is only anchoring against forward movement and is not actually bearing any weight. What I've done is I've done a very quick fix of just putting a bolt through it to encourage it to take some more weight on this top mount and not just leave these two little 6mm at the bottom carrying the weight of all the bike. Now, I wish there was a safety lesson that could be taken from this, and I'm not sure there really is. This was very sudden, happened very suddenly, with a bit of kit that was supposedly mounted properly. Had not given me any grief before. There's probably a lesson in hanging really heavy things off stands that may not be designed for really heavy things and having a look at the weight of your bike when you're putting it on the work stand. But, you know, it didn't look like anything was wrong with the wall, the holes, the plug. The work stand isn't broken, it's just come wholesale off. And when it was fitted, it was very secure and it's lasted a long time. So the only safety tip I can really give you is to have somebody around, because when it went crash and I said, ow, somebody came and said to me, yes, it looks like there's blood coming out of your head. Probably a good idea to go and have a look at it in the mirror, and that's where I ended up going to hospital. But we all know these sort of workshop safety things, don't we? Make sure somebody knows you're out there, make sure somebody knows when you're supposed to be back. There's lots of stories about people getting quite injured and sort of laying on the floor for a little while before anyone finds them. So, you know, if somebody knows you're out there, they can bring you a cup of tea for a start, and they can come and see what's going on if you drop something on your head. And that's all sorted. Stand's back on the wall, camera's back in the stand. Lots and lots of things are on the bench, needing to be fixed, bodged and hacked in various ways. If you're on board with that kind of thing, give us a subscribe. The socials can be found in the usual place in the description below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.